What's up, Star Wars nerds, and welcome to another episode of Brett on Fett. On today's episode, it's Halloween, so we're going to be counting down the top 5 scariest figures from the Vintage Collection. Then we're going to have another edition of Droid Service, where I'll be going over the latest additions of R2 units to the Vintage Collection. And then finally, we're going to be looking at some fairly recent pickups of mine from Droid Factory. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 38 of Brett on Fett. And like I said, it is Halloween, so I'm wearing my lukeskywalkeryavinceremony costume in celebration of Halloween. And like I was talking about at the beginning, sorry about that. Anyways, like I was saying, in spirit of Halloween, we're going to be counting down the top 5 scariest Vintage Collection figures. And we talked about this. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Anyways, what I was saying is, before we get to the top 5 scariest figures for the Vintage Collection, I do want to apologize for my voice. It's a little bit scratchy. I'm just getting over a mild case of the flu. Feeling much better, but my voice is still a little bit scratchy, so forgive me, as I'm probably going to sound a little bad throughout this episode. Okay. Guys, I'm so sorry about this. I gotta do something. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I told you it's not my fault you didn't get your own medal. I blew up the freaking Death Star and you're gonna take my medal? Why don't you talk to Dodonna or Mon Mothma or Leia? Why can't you just wait till the sequel trilogy to get your own dang medal? This is absurd. You look ridiculous. Okay, so as I was saying, we're going to start with the top 5 countdown for the scariest figures for the Vintage Collection. So let's take a look at what I came up with. Are you happy now? Great. Alright, kicking off my top 5 scariest TVC figures, I have at number 5, VC57, Dr. Evison, the Cantina Patron. And, at first glance, you might think, okay, this guy isn't that scary, he's mostly human. But, you try having a one-on-one conversation with him in your face and not stare at his deformed right side. I mean, the awkwardness alone is scary and giving me anxiety. And they captured his deformity rather well on the face sculpt for this figure, so not the scariest, but definitely worthy of number 5, in my opinion. At number 4, I have VC86 Darthmaul from the Phantom Menace. Pretty cool looking figure and definitely a scary dude. The card back is very ominous with him staring you down. And looking at the figure itself, yeah, he has a very menacing look to his face. Now, there is another Darth Maul in TVC, of course. That is the Darth Maul Mandalore from Clone Wars. But looking at this version of him, I didn't think his face was quite as menacing and scary looking, so I definitely wanted to go with the Phantom Menace version. I think most collectors would agree Maul is a top tier villain in the Star Wars universe, and a scary one at that. And at number 3, I have VC21, the Gamorrean Guard from Return of the Jedi. Now, a lot of you collectors, especially you old school collectors, may not agree with me on this one because so many of us have come to find these guys rather lovable. They're kind of like pets, And so you may not associate with them as a scary character. But, I mean, looking at the figure and especially looking at the face, I mean, that is a face that only a mother could love, and in my opinion would be terrifying to, say, a small child who has not seen Star Wars before. And so I still think these guys are pretty scary looking, and the figure is so good, it was done so well, and it really captures the look of these mutant man pigs perfectly. And at number 2, I have the Dark Lord himself, VC12 Darth Sidious from the Revenge of the Sith card. Very scary looking dude, especially in his face on this figure. The card back alone is fairly frightening, but this guy reached number 2 because of the head sculpt and the head sculpt alone. I mean, let's take a look at this figure. And let's go ahead and zoom in on that mug. Hasbro really did a great job with this head sculpt. I mean, look at those teeth. I think it was the open mouth with those teeth that really sold me on this one being the scariest version. I did also consider putting the VC200 Return of the Jedi Emperor on this list, but I wasn't going to put both, and I definitely wasn't going to put the Phantom Menace version of Darth Sidious. Not scary at all. So I definitely wanted to go with this Revenge of the Sith version. I thought this is clearly the scariest version of this character. And for my number 1 scariest TVC figure, I picked Bespin Escape Leia. Just kidding, I just wanted to take a shot at this because I hate this figure so much. What a terrible card back. No, my real number 1 scariest figure from TVC is VC59 Nom Anor. Now, he is on the Expanded Universe card. He is a character from Star Wars Legends, comics, and novels. He is a member of the Yuuzhan Vong species, and there's a bunch of stories on Yuuzhan Vong wars. Although, as scary as this guy is, I think it's scarier that Hasbro made the decision to make this character the second Expanded Universe figure for TVC. It's by far the most unpopular Expanded Universe figure from TVC, but he is scary. I mean, he looks like a dark version of Skeletor, and he is the stuff of nightmares. Looking at the figure, and especially looking at the head sculpt, I mean, this guy looks like a maniac. And, you know, my issue with this figure is it just doesn't feel very Star Warsy. It looks like a character from another toy line, in my opinion. But that's not what this countdown's about. This countdown is about the scariest figure, and I think by far, this guy takes the prize. Alright, so a couple of episodes ago, you guys watched me open up my Walmart wave of original 96 figures, including the new R2-D2 on an Empire Strikes Back card. Well, I wanted to go back and revisit that one a little closer, and also go over the other R2 unit that came to the Vintage Collection recently, that being the R2'SHW, or antocmerric's astromech droid. So let's take a closer look at both of those and compare them to other R2s we've had in TVC as well. And here he is, the new R2-D2 on an Empire Strikes Back card. This is an original 96 figure we needed for the Empire Strikes Back, and right off the bat, I love the red name pill color, how it goes with the Empire Strikes Back title. I love the colors. Unfortunately, you see on the side there, I've got that bubble scarring that's so prevalent these days with these thicker cardstock. But great colors on the image. A classic image. It's just awkward because it's got R2's back facing 3PO, and 3PO is kind of hidden behind the figure pill. But R2 in the bubble looks great there with the clean R2. It's VC234. There's the rest of that Walmart exclusive wave, which you can now get, by the way, on other e-retailers, such as Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store. But anyways, here's the other new R2. This is R2'SHW, or antocmerric's droid on the rogueone card, a figure we desperately needed to go with antocmerric and that new blue X-Wing that came out a while back. Card back looks great, except look at the color of him on the image. It's like a rusty orange versus the figure is a bright, vibrant red. This is a total fail, in my opinion, with the card back image. I don't understand why the huge difference in color there. I think some miscommunication between the artists and the figure designers. You can see it's VC260, and there is the wave. I love how on Velsartha it says Aldani Messino. They misspelled mission. Very obvious typo there. It's so funny to me how that can happen on these things, but it does happen quite often. But overall, great looking card back and figure for display. I just wish they hadn't messed up that color on the image. Okay, next, since both of these figures use the same exact mold, and I did have an extra R2, I wanted to take a closer look at him loose. And here he is, looking pretty good. Overall, I liked the clean R2. We needed a clean R2. And the only issue with mine here is look at this paint smudge and runoff there. That is really bad. I got really unlucky with this one. I may have to give this one to my son and get another one. Also, I noticed that with the periscope in as shown, he can't rotate his head all the way around. He goes maybe 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock roughly. But you can take a look at the periscope. It comes out completely like so. There it is. And then if you push it all the way in, that is what activates his third leg. Comes out there. And with the third leg, it doesn't come all the way out at first. You have to kind of pull on it to get it fully extended. That's what she said. And the other issue is that I can't get this guy articulated perfectly to be level with all three legs. I just struggled a little bit. It's a little maybe hard to show on camera, but see, I can't get those back legs fully down and have them all three in perfect contact. I've tried. It's just not perfect. It's not horrible, but this is a very minor thing, but I just found it kind of annoying because I actually love posing R2s in the 3-leg mode, and it just doesn't work very well with this figure. I'm just really struggling to get it work. So that was kind of annoying to me. But perhaps even more annoying than that is his little hatch here. It pops up, which is cool. It's a cool little feature. He's got his little arm that comes out. But the more you open this thing and close it, the less it is likely to shut. I noticed this is probably the third or fourth time I've done this, and it gets worse every time. You see, I cannot get that door to fully close, and it's just gotten worse and worse each time I've opened it. So I would advise just don't even open it if you're gonna have this guy displayed loose, or else you may have to use some glue or something. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if this is just a defective one I have, or that they're all like that. Now, I'm bringing out the Black Series for just a comparison. And you can see with the Black Series, his third leg is long enough that it all rides flush with all 3 feet. So I like that better about the Black Series. And I noticed something different is about the color. The Black Series is a darker blue. And I actually thought that was more screen accurate. But I went back and watched some scenes with R2. And actually, this new TVC blue, to me, is the more accurate color. It's just that a lot of scenes in Star Wars are darker, and so it appears darker blue, but the brighter lit scenes in Star Wars, you can see he does have a more vibrant blue. Now, I almost forgot, when you have the third leg extended, his dome becomes even less mobile. It's more like 11-1 versus 10-2. But if you pop it back in, you can see with the scope in there sticking out, it goes back to 10-2 mobilization. And if you take the piece completely out, now you can move the dome fully around. Now, maybe this is something mechanical that just couldn't be avoided, but I just think it's kind of annoying that you can't pose his head fully when using those features. So that's another kind of downside on this figure, unfortunately. Overall, I think the figure looks good. I think it looks good for display, but as far as posability and articulation, I just think it falls a little short. Alright, and finally, now that we have an R2-D2 from each of the 3 original trilogy films, I just wanted to very quickly compare the figures and card backs. And starting with the A New Hope R2-D2, awesome classic card back. This is VC-149. The only frustration with this one is they gave us this dirty version of R2 instead of the clean R2. This is where we should have had a clean R2 to go with that clean R2 card back. And on this one, you could see they are different molds. For the A New Hope one, they used a Build-A-Droid version, which I think originated from the Legacy collection. And nothing wrong with that mold. I do not have this loose, so I couldn't tell you about the articulation. Fine mold. I just thought they way overdid it with the dirty look paint apps, so very disappointing. And then taking a look at the Return of the Jedi R2-D2, or in my case, I have the Revenge of the Jedi card. This is VC25. One of my favorite figures in my collection because I just think it's a really cool card back, and I love the image and the accessories. It comes with R2. But this is the same mold that we just got with this one. They actually reused the same mold, and I just was not aware of the shortfalls on the articulation with this guy, but I think his accessories make up for it. So that being said, I do think the Jedi one is the better version because of those accessories. But they are the same mold, so basically the same figure. But articulation shortfalls or not, I'm very happy with the variety of card backs we've gotten for all three original trilogy versions of R2-D2, so very happy to have these in my collection. Next up, I want to quickly shift gears to some Droid Factory figures I've acquired over the past couple months but never talked about, starting with R7TNO. This is a Disney Parks exclusive. Awesome looking figure. This is clearly done to look like Ahsoka Tano. This is not a canon droid by any means, but I really think the color scheme looks cool. I thought this was a neat idea to emulate Ahsoka. The patterns are very cool. I love the colors. And just taking a look at the back, you know, one thing I do like about these card backs and Droid Factory, they show the little different parts of the droid called out there. But really cool looking figure. This is one of my favorite Droid Factory droids. I love that they did that. And then here, of course, is B2EMO from the Andor series. You guys have seen this. This is a great droid. He is very popular on the show. I came to love him a lot more once I saw him on the show versus when I first saw him. And this is the only way you can get him in 3 3/4 is the Droid Factory. And very neat droid. You can see the little details on him. And that figure does extend as shown on the image. So really neat little feature. Now one thing I noticed on the back here, unlike all the other Droid Factories, they do not call out the parts for him. I'm not sure why that is, but they don't. But anyways, really neat figure. Happy to have B2EMO. Really hope we someday get him in the vintage collection. But I'm not sure if we will. And finally, by far my most special Droid Factory figure to ever acquire is the SK620. This is a Chandrilla Starline. I won this figure as a drawing from a local toy store in Texas called Order 66 Toys. I was completely shocked I won this. I rarely win stuff like that. But man, what an awesome looking droid. This, of course, is exclusive to that Disney cruise, you know, Star Wars fantasy cruise. That's really a fake cruise, all virtual, but very expensive to get a ticket. I think it's upwards as cost to about $3,000 per ticket for that experience. And you have to have a ticket in order to have an opportunity to buy this droid, and they limit one droid per customer. And so it really is pretty rare, or at least exclusive, I should say. But either way, I'm very lucky to have won this. I love everything about this. I love the color scheme on the droid. I love the card back design. This truly is my favorite droid to acquire from the Droid Factory. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode of Brett on Fett. I hope you enjoyed this Halloween special. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you to my subscribers. Don't forget you can also follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. Take care, and we'll see you next time. I hope you're happy with yourself. You know you look ridiculous. Flavor Flav thinks you look ridiculous, man. Okay.